All right. Hello. I have finished reading the patch notes and I got a pretty good idea of what I'm going to be league starting and a couple beginner builds that I do want to get into. First off, I want to acknowledge, yes, death to all the meta, all the Stormweavers, and probably attribute stackers definitely got hit pretty bad. But otherwise, I'm happy with the patch notes. People really needed to have everything just wiped out in this kind of apocalypse. Anyways, I was expecting this to happen like weekly in the first initial go around, but I guess this is fine too. It's funny seeing how mad people are gonna be, but there's probably gonna be something strong. Okay, anyways, my league start in particular, I'm going to be going with the Smith of Kitava due to multiple reasons, but I'll get into specifically what I'm going to be going for because there's a lot of haze. I There's not like a guide. I'm not providing a guide for my league start, but I'm going to be giving the general direction of what it's going for. So for this, the Smith of Kitava is good because it has one thing I'm interested in, which is Manifest Weapon. I want to see if I could build something around that with either a hammer or a spear. I'll get into that in a second. And if none of that is really anything that, like, if this ends up being bad, well, then Smith of Kitava ends up just being a really good defensive layer. So I can grab Coal Stokers and this, and then just switch to a more Cloak of Flame conversion kind of build. Just have this as defensive layer. It's strong. And like I was saying with the weapon, either going hammer or spear, because I want to try spear. And according to the passive tree, it's not that far. And if I end up going sphere, Smith covers for a lot of the defenses I would lose by pathing such a far path. But there's also, because spheres are primarily one-handed weapons, you can grab stuff like this on the way and just not lose much. They attack pretty quickly, so rage could also be genuinely pretty interesting. And there's a bunch of added passive tree stuff that's not updated, so that'll be interesting one. Otherwise, Mace's got a attack speed buff in general. That could be cool. Really, it just comes down to how Manifest Weapon works in particular. We don't have all the details. From what was said, it primarily scales off of weapon damage, and given their design philosophies, I don't think it would particularly scale well with minion damage modifiers. Maybe minion life? We'll just have to see how that toggles, but that's not the hardest thing. It just means that when we're going through the passive tree, uh, life's on the way here, so that could be something. But if it does scale with minion damage, well, then that means, okay, we're going down here, we're grabbing maces, and then we're coming up here for minion damage and survivability. But again, this is all just speculative because details are not completely out there. But that's generally my plan. Then immediately afterwards, I do want to kind of touch on other potential builds that I thought of while looking through the patch notes. In particular, I want to touch on the buff to Warcry's Bellow. So a big issue that existed this skill in particular, like explode on Warcry corpses, was the fact that the explosions were tiny, teeny tiny. You couldn't get any actually overlap, and they would have to be basically right on top of the corpse. Now with this, you could just scale with Warcry size. Yeah, scale area of effect. And if I go over here and just, Warcry area. Okay, we're just gonna do Warcry. Uh, yeah, there's Warcry area of effect right here, 30%. easy amount of Warcry area of effect right here. Another 30%. Another 25%. Is there stuff right here? Yeah, no, that's like 75% increased area of effect. That's very, very good. And so that could potentially make this skill actually pretty usable. That's one of them. Lesser. One that's a little lesser than the other one is they gave some buff to the ancestral spirits, particularly giving the skill scaling to strength and dex. That could be potentially interesting as something to test on later on. Obviously, a lot of the power comes from stacking, and you're stuck on the Warbringer, so you can't use Legionnaire or Titan to get those kinds of strong scaling effects. But you know, getting a Hulk, getting the Master, and putting it on totems for totem survivability, it's something that could be interesting. And then the last two ones. This one is generally just like, okay, well, I finally have an excuse to play Chronomancer, is Unleash. This is definitely a very broad kind of build topic, like, oh, I want to use Unleash. But Unleash is, you know, repeating a skill over and over, so I don't know, there could be some funky spells going on here. And it's currently attached to the Chronomancer, which compares to how they were originally advertising it, where it was attached to a staff. So this does mean that you are not limited to a particular weapon type. So whatever I do with Unleash, it's not going to be something that necessarily needs a staff. So maybe a wand skill or something like that that scales with Unleash. We'll see. This one just piqued my interest, so it's on my list that I have here. And then last, and certainly least because it's funny, Thorns. It's been buffed by 3.5 times. Yay! Yay! That's gonna save it. That's really gonna save Thorns. Yeah, no, I'm gonna try a Thorns build. That's gonna be like maybe a third or fourth build when I'm bored and want to do something funny. That one could be fun. Obviously, they moved around block and scaling kind of stuff. Depending on how, you know, the modifiers look, because Thorns only existed, if I believe, on shields, your body armor, and your belt. And that's the only way you can get a lot of Thorns. So if the new clusters that they're adding add anything interesting, that could potentially be, you know, a full type of build. But, you know, it's Thorns. It's limited by the fact that you have to be hit for it to actually work. So how usable it is as a main skill is to be determined unless Thorns can now proc something, or you can do self-inflicted Thorn pops. Who knows? Who knows? I do want to reiterate this if you're at all like still thinking or wondering or was looking at this video as a means of like, oh, maybe this guy can tell me what I want to do. This time around, everything has been thrown into the mixer. We're getting a fresh new start. Do not go in with the assumption that a skill worked like it did in the previous patch, because chances are it's not going to be in the exact same way. They have done a lot of minimal changes, and the strongest builds have yet to be determined. And for sure, they are not the previous build, because Hand of Wisdom and Action got nuked from orbit. So also Astramentus got nuked from orbit. So fuck. It got nuked from orbit. So yeah, anyways, that's my thoughts. Good luck with your league start, and yeah. Fuck you, Stormweaver.